I loved my wife very much. And so when I betrayed her trust, you would think I would fight for her. I did not. In fact, I froze for like 3 full years where I did basically nothing. I was completely complacent and it nearly led to our divorce. So, why do we as husbands, even when we love our wives deeply, tend to lack the initiative to repair it? In which a wife finding out that she's been betrayed certainly classifies as one. People tend toward either fight, flight, or freeze. So when we as guys fight, when we push back, when we are confronted and we get more combative, that can sometimes be indicative of a lack of humility, a lack of empathy and understanding, which is understandable if we've numbed out all of our emotions. But one of the things that I would also ask is, how did you respond to confrontation as a child and why? What was your first experience of confrontation? Oftentimes, the guys that I talk to, when their initial gut reaction to their wife finding out about them is fighting, it's combative, it's argumentative. Oftentimes, they learned from a very young age that they need to do that in order to survive. And sometimes, in order to get past that in marriage, some wounds from childhood need to be healed over. And this is one area that EMDR can be incredibly helpful. In essence, a therapist talks you through the initial, either the first or the most impactful experience that you had with a heightened emotional response. And as you can imagine, as you're talking through it, feeling all the feels, some of the potentially anger comes back. But in this context, you're in the safe environment of a therapist's office. And what it does pretty quickly, but over time, is it helps you to restore the memory that you had that previously had a heightened emotion, a trauma associated with it, and replace it with still the memory, but with a significantly reduced emotional response. Because at this point, the emotional response is likely not helpful. A lot of guys also freeze. That was my scenario. When my wife found out about my struggle, I basically just had my head in my hands, elbows on my knees, just completely done. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. And what had happened was I had gotten so used to Matt as the shame-filled porn addict that when I was no longer in hiding, when I was exposed, I was cowering. I was afraid of the consequences. I didn't really know who I was apart from the sin, as weird as that sounds. And it felt like everything that I did or said would or could trigger my wife to have a strong emotional reaction. And so the safest thing to do felt like nothing. And anything that I was encouraged to do, like go to a therapist or join a group or read a book or a blog or an article, it all felt like, what's the point? I've always struggled. I will always struggle because I didn't know anything different. And so I remained frozen in time, if you will. Another compounding factor is oftentimes porn, masturbation, any form of addiction really numbs out our emotions. And so at the point at which discovery happens, we tend to feel pretty numb about it. We don't know what to feel. We know our wife, who we love, is really hurting, but we don't actually feel the feels that are appropriate in that time. We don't know what to feel, and not only feel, but we don't know what to think. She may be talking about potentially leaving or potentially staying, or are you planning on moving out, or are you planning on staying? And all the while our head is spinning because we feel just as out of control as we did for the years that we remained trapped in addiction, and just as hopeless to fight that, we feel hopeless to do anything to save our marriage. And so there's a sense in which there's a level of peace that comes from just knowing what our wife is planning on doing, because it doesn't feel like it's as though we can actually play a role in helping her to stay. And because everything triggers a response, it can feel like, we as guys oftentimes don't know what to do. Nothing feels like the right answer. And this comes down to kind of the core double bind, which is, if I'm honest, she'll be angry about what I did. And if I'm dishonest, she'll still be angry, but a little bit down the road, but my conscience will be eating at me. But that's how I got into this mess in the first place. So often when we get into these modes, whether we're fighting or whether we're freezing, what we need most is someone to come alongside us, for someone who knows truth to be able to speak truth, to be a steady force for us, and someone who can believe in us. Not necessarily believe us in everything that we say, someone who can push back on us, someone who can help us to become the men that God has called us to be, the men that we aspire to be, that we long to be, even if we don't actually believe that we can do it. My friend, what are you going to do? As Henry Ford said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. You know you can't walk this alone. You know you can't walk this alone. I think you probably know to an extent who believes in you. And if you don't have anyone who believes in you that you can reach out to, so my friend, what are you going to do? Are you going to lean into those who believe in you? Be it a spouse, be it a friend, be it a pastor, or are you going to find someone who can believe in you? Whether that be a coach, whether that be a therapist. The reality is when we are in the midst of the weightiness and the sensitivity of rebuilding our marriage after betrayal, we are our own worst advisors. We struggle emotionally. We struggle with knowing what to do, how to do things differently, how to inspire trust, how to become trustworthy. All of these are foreign things. And I believed for a long time that I could figure it out on my own, and I was arrogant. And that's a huge part of why it took my wife and I so incredibly long to heal and experience so much pain along the way. So again, are you going to continue going it alone? Are you going to keep going it alone with the volatility that you have been? Or are you going to lean into those that believe in you, that God has put in your path? The choice is yours. But not taking initiative, not making a decision is in fact a decision. And I've made that decision, and I can tell you with full confidence it was the wrong one. But my friend, I want you to know I believe in you. I wouldn't make these videos on a regular basis if I didn't. I've come to believe that if God can transform me, my heart, who I have been, if he can transform my marriage, he can transform anyone's. It has nothing to do with me, it has nothing to do with my wife, it has everything to do with God and his power to be at work. Working through his people just tends to be how God works. So my friend, whether you reach out to us at Courage Reclaimed or someone else, my encouragement would be, do not walk this alone.